All right, let's talk about money. Do you know how you remember very odd memories from the past? It's like certain moments just stick with you and you don't even know why. And I remember like today, this Thursday in uni, and one of the alumni who was about to graduate in the same program was saying how he cannot wait to get into work and start minting money. And to me, that was kind of like, oh, you can actually make quite a lot of money just doing UX and things of that nature. But anyways, that stuck with me because ultimately a lot of you, I would presume, started thinking about getting into UX or chose UX as almost like a pseudo-creative research-driven field because it's also quite lucrative. So in this video, I want to give you a few tips because it's yet another UX interviews optimization video, and it's about how can you negotiate more money? How can you convince them that they should pay you just a little bit more? Take this with a big grain of salt, like everything on this channel or anything you actually read or watch, because all of these things in terms of like rates and money and ways of working and things of that nature are very region specific. They're also very industry specific sometimes. They're also very specific to organization side, to design maturity within the region, the industry, and you name it. And so take it with a big grain of salt and see exactly if it can stick, or maybe you're going to be that maverick who's going to introduce this bold approach to getting bigger salaries in your industry. And so the awesome tool which I want to share with you today is borrowed from author Chris Voss, who's former FBI negotiations expert and highly recommended books author Never Split the Difference. And what he's suggesting as a tool is always, when you negotiate salaries, is to give someone else a range of money. If we would take something like a fictitious vaexperience bucks, you would basically go to your boss or go to your potential boss or a recruitment manager and say, well, my expectations for the salary is between 10 and 12 vaexperience bucks. Or my expectations for this promotion would be that my salary would increase by, let's say, I don't know, around 10 to 20%, which would lead it to, let's say, 100,000 to 100,015 vaexperience bucks. That type of stuff. Now, this is kind of obvious, right? Like, this is like, yeah, I know that. I'm already probably doing that. However, not everybody does that. What people tend to do is they pick one number and they just say, oh, I would like to do around, let's say, 100,000, or like to have something like 55K or something like that. We take one number. The range aspect is really important here. And what's even more important here is that the range should start with your desired number. So if you are after 100,000, start the range of that and then increase it by, let's say, something like 5 grand or 10 grand. Something which is actually makes sense given the region, the market rates, your promotion rates, like what did you have before? If let's say you earned 55K, maybe 10% is a good increase based on all those different variables. Think about it. But the point here is when you give a range to someone, start with what you desire and increase it slightly so that you might get even more than what you desire in that case, or at least the minimum what you desire is that number you're after. Now, what you definitely need to do, and what I'm kind of hinting here, is to know exactly what's worth it. So the request is not ludicrous, because if you're gonna, I don't know, maybe you're earning 50 grand and you're gonna request 200 grand, that's just gonna be insane. So you need to know by the market rates, but what you know about your role, exactly what the increase is appropriate. You could use a lot of different tools for that. For example, there is LinkedIn salary reviews. If you go there, you type your region, you type your role, you can get averages, you can get massive different ranges. Of course, the ranges are going to be all over the place, because if you take something like a senior UX designer, and I'm going to take it in London, a senior UX designer in London could earn as little as 40 grand, or they could earn as much as 100 grand. It just varies all over a place. You could go on things like Glassdoor and look at the specific rates which have been reported by actual employees in that firm. While the UX is such a niche, you might not get many metrics or many examples, it's still worth to look at and see, okay, this is what senior UX designer earns. And then kind of tailor your ask based on that. Also, another level to that is your experience within the area. You can always justify it that way. So almost like a supportive principle to the range is to have the evidence and insights to support that claim. For example, myself, if I would ask for a range, I would also say because of the market rates, because of my, I don't know, a decade worth of experience in UX, and because of I know what you're about, or like maybe something matches up in terms of skills, and you can always support the argument. When it's obviously shows that you're confident, that you thought about it, that it's not just a number you pulled out of a pocket and just threw on a table and said, I want this. That's ultimately not what we're after. Now, I know for sure, and what I mentioned before is that different markets are going to have different conditions. For example, in my Get Into UX book, I have this chapter just on this specific topic, but one of the editors pointed out that in USA, it's completely opposite, that you don't really have a say about your salary. You don't even talk about it until the end of the interview process. And it's almost like you are given a paper and it says a number and you either take it or leave it. Let's say as an opposite example, in UK, you start with that. In a screening course, you talk about notice period. You talk about the salary which is desired. Sometimes you're gonna be asked about your current salary. Of course, you don't have to give that. For example, I would be able to negotiate it throughout the interview if I want to, or at least at the beginning and at the end, because we all want to save time, so it kind of makes sense. But having said that, different markets are obviously gonna have very different conditions. Regardless, you can apply this principle later on. Maybe if the offer is not really great, you can kind of try to have a conversation and say, hey, well, this is too low. I'm looking for this range. Can you consider it? And just have a conversation. Try to see if there's space. Naturally, don't just take an offer which is on a table. Always negotiate. And same applies for a promotion process as well. You know, in bigger organizations, you're gonna get a cut based on a performance of your own, of the company, so you don't have much say, but your manager is always able to recommend it. Your manager always should know where your head is at. If you're making it clear to the manager that you need an increase in salary, they should be able to recommend it. But again, make sure to talk about it in terms of ranges, in terms of your contribution, in terms of what you're trying to achieve, and then go from there. Make sure to consider how could you employ it going forward. And I hope this is useful. If so, smash that like button. Leave a comment down below if you have any add-ons to this. And on that note, I'll see you next time.